Okay, this is a video to show a problem that I've been having with this chimney. Now, if you notice that chimney, you notice that it's got black, dark streaks on both sides of the center. And what caused that was, when this was originally put up, there were no gutters in this location. And so what happened is the water off of that room would run down, and then it would run down onto the chimney. Not in the center part of the chimney, because on the roof there is a small tent that's designed to deflect. You can only just barely see a little bit of it, the water around the chimney. And then it runs onto those sloped sections of the chimney. And what happens is it can end up drenching the chimney with water. Now, that causes a problem. And I'm going to show you that inside the house. I've added those gutters in those locations as a way to prevent that water from running onto the chimney. And that has dried up my problem, but let me show you. I'm going to go inside and show you what problem that caused. Okay, I'll hit pause. Okay, here's the other side of that chimney. Now, what it caused was the entire chimney would soak in that water to the point where it would get wet, and then that water would then soak into the wallboard, which was next to the chimney, because the wallboard just goes directly up against the chimney. Now, probably because of the water just continues to soak in the chimney, and then as it dries out, the water probably just goes down due to gravity. The damage is worse on the floor. It's actually worse on the garage underneath, okay, but that's a separate issue. It's just a more severe form of that down there. So what I found is that the wallboard, when the wallboard soaks up water, it starts to degrade, the paint starts crinkling. So here, I've sanded this down to a firm surface. Here, the wallboard was not sound, so I cut it out. And I have prepared another piece to do a patch here, but before I got into the patch, in this particular section, there was enough rot that I did apply the board. It was dry because I've had that gutter up for over 5 years, and the chimney is now dried out. It's dry. When it rained, of course the chimney gets wet due to rain, but it doesn't get the runoff from the roof, which drenches it. Okay, so this chimney is now dried out. And this area was dry, but it had been rotted. I added borate material, let that soak in and dry, then I added some consolidation epoxy to firm up this spot. This, of course, is going to be completely covered up. I just want to stabilize it. And then I used some spray foam just to fill in, because there are gaps. And this is an area that can be hard to caulk properly. The chimney itself has certain gaps. I hate using spray foam because it's terribly, terribly messy. But I did have a can that I needed to use up. Okay, so I sprayed it in there and cut it all off. I'm ready to, patch this up. And now, this happened on both sides of the chimney. One side, that side was a little bit worse in terms of the rot. This side was a little bit worse in terms of the paint. But I did sand it down, and it's the same story down here. It's just that the subfloor was sound here. I do have a patch. I actually had patched one side of this many years ago before I even knew what the source of the problem was. I just knew that it was wet. I put a smaller patch in many, many years ago, just because it was wet and crumbly. But then it also then began absorbing it. Where this problem really picked up was when I installed my condensing boiler, because this chimney now is not used. With the old boiler, it used the flue of this chimney. So what would happen is during the heating season, the hot gas from the boiler would actually probably help dry out the chimney, because I noticed the condensing boiler, which vents directly to the side of the basement wall, the chimney was completely unused. And what I noticed was this type of thing really picked up after that had happened. Down in the basement, where the chimney, it turns into cinder block, what I noticed was after the condensing boiler went in, that would be a very wet area, never dry out. And that's what actually prompted me to figure out what was causing this problem. Once I put up those gutters, everything started drying out, but it took years for everything to dry out, and now it has dried. I'm going to do a repair here, and I'm going to do a repair down in the garage underneath here. I'll have to replace a larger section of wallboard where there's the exact same situation has happened, and then hopefully I'll be able to bring this back to the way it's supposed to be. Okay, thanks.